My name is Ashley Miller. I'm 34 years old, and as I sit in the back row of Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, I'm almost invisible, just another figure in a sea of dark suits and somber faces, gathered for a funeral nobody expected to be so pivotal. It's been 15 years since my father, Robert Miller, last spoke to me with anything resembling respect. That was the day I left our home in Chicago, burning every bridge that had ever promised security or approval, carrying nothing but a stubborn sense of justice and a duffel bag of thrift store clothes. Today, my father stands at the front of the cathedral, his posture as rigid as ever, his voice perfectly measured as he delivers the eulogy for my grandfather, George Miller, the only man in our family who ever saw past my rough edges and stubborn ambition. Grandpa was the one who taught me to fish on cold Midwestern mornings, the one who snuck me comic books when my dad insisted girls should read etiquette guides, the one who came to every graduation, even when he was using a cane. If anyone here deserves to be honored, it's him. I didn't come here for closure, or even out of duty. The truth is, I almost didn't come at all. The last time I'd set foot in a church with my family was my cousin's wedding, a decade ago. I'd been in uniform, hair cut short, my badge gleaming. My dad had barely looked at me. My siblings, Brian and Melissa, played their parts, the golden boy and the family darling, while I was the outlier, the rebel who never seemed to fit. Now, as organ music floats down the nave and sunlight glints off stained glass, I sit at the edge of the ceremony, purposefully distant. I chose this spot so that the relatives and old friends scattered throughout the cathedral wouldn't recognize me immediately, but also close enough to hear every syllable of my father's carefully crafted speech. My black blazer is crisp and tailored, a holdover from my detective days in New York, where sharp lines and silent confidence are worth more than any family name. My mind drifts as my father's words roll over the congregation. George Miller was a pillar of this community, a he in tones, his voice rich with the same authoritative timbre that once made me shrink as a child. He believed in family above all else, in hard work, dedication, and never giving up on those you love. I catch a bitter smile forming. The irony would be almost funny if it didn't sting so much. Dad always did love his own stories more than anyone else's reality. Up at the front, Brian nods solemnly, every inch the prodigal son who came home to mourn. Next to him, Melissa dabs at her eyes, her sorrow a performance for the assembled family. They stayed close, built their lives inside my father's orbit, and let him dictate what their successes should look like. I was never meant for that mold. If you'd asked my father, he'd have told you that I was the family disappointment, a girl who questioned too much, fought too hard, and believed that justice meant more than comfort. While Brian led the debate team and Melissa charmed her way through high school pageants and sorority life, I spent my afternoons at the Police Athletic League gym, working the heavy bag until my knuckles bled, or buried in true crime novels and stories of female detectives who changed the world, even if no one remembered their names. I knew by my sophomore year in college that the support my father offered came with more strings than a marionette. He wanted a daughter who would take the LSAT, join the family's law practice, marry a man he approved of, and attend the right charity galas. I wanted none of it. When I changed my major from pre-law to criminal justice and announced that I'd applied to the police academy, he was livid. "You want to ruin your life playing cop?" He'd spat, standing in his walnut-paneled office, the diplomas on the wall mocking me with their silent accusation. "Fine. But don't expect me to pay for your delusions." Brian was there that night, home from Northwestern Law for winter break, watching like someone at a play. "Ashley, you're being dramatic. Just apologize and be reasonable," he called after me as I packed my bags. Melissa's only response came hours later. One short text, "Dad's worried about you." Why can't you be normal? Normal. As if there was something fundamentally broken about wanting to serve something bigger than myself, something more meaningful than the corporate ladder everyone else worshipped. That night, I left home with nothing but determination and a battered backpack. I worked nights as a security guard, survived on scholarships and black coffee, and graduated from the police academy at the top of my class. By the time I earned my detective shield, nobody from my family had called in years. Looking back, I wonder if it was inevitable. If some families are just held together by habit and expectation, and if breaking away is the only way to find out who you really are. Sitting here now, in the shadow of my grandfather's casket, I feel both the weight of all I've lost and the quiet certainty that I never belonged anywhere else but on my own. As the eulogy draws to a close, my father's voice rises, the consummate orator, basking in his own myth. I grip the edge of the pew, steadying myself. I know the hardest part is yet to come. Grandpa's will is about to be read, and nothing in this cathedral will ever be the same. There's a strange, hollow quiet after a funeral, the kind that vibrates just under your skin, a mix of old grief, unresolved resentment, and the fear of what comes next. As the organ's final notes fade, people begin to shift in their seats, murmuring to one another, eager to be done with ceremony and sorrow. For a moment, the cathedral feels suspended in time, the air heavy with incense and the scent of wilting lilies. From my place in the back, I watch my family fall into their usual patterns, tight, well-rehearsed, impossible to crack from the outside. Brian helps my father to his feet, all respectful solemnity, always the peacemaker. Melissa clings to her designer handbag as if it's a life raft, avoiding my gaze. Most of these faces I haven't seen in over a decade, though some of them used to pinch my cheeks and buy me ice cream. They look older, softer around the edges, yet nothing about them feels welcoming. I'm not sure what I expected. Maybe I thought that after all these years, someone would notice how much I've changed. But when you leave, you become a myth in your own family, a shadow, a whispered warning. I'm sure that's how Dad explained my absence at every Thanksgiving. Ashley chose her path. We have to respect that, but it's a shame. No one in my family knows what I really do. To them, a police detective is something you see on TV, not something their daughter or sister could possibly be, certainly not in New York, certainly not with any real responsibility. I've worked undercover, led search and rescue teams, spent nights driving through the worst parts of the Bronx with nothing but a flashlight and my gut. But I never felt as invisible as I do now, standing just outside the boundaries of my own blood. I watch as Brian exchanges quiet words with my father, both of them casting glances over the crowd, orchestrating the flow of condolences. Melissa's mascara has smudged in perfect, artful streaks. She's always been good at crying when people are watching. Their lives unfolded just the way my father planned. Brian's name is engraved on the door of a high-rise law firm in downtown Dallas. Melissa married her college sweetheart, had 2 kids, and moved to Orange County, where every street looks like a scene from a car commercial. I tried, for a while, to fit into the version of family they wanted. Christmas dinners full of brittle laughter, forced small talk, discussions about mortgages and private schools, all laced with the sense that I was an experiment gone wrong. My mother died when I was 17, and after that, it was just Dad's rules and Dad's expectations, and my own sense that maybe I could remake myself into someone they'd welcome back. But that's the thing about being the black sheep, eventually, you realize your wool is just a different color, and no amount of washing is going to change it. So you run. My thoughts are interrupted by the voice of the funeral director, gentle and businesslike. Ladies and gentlemen, the reading of the will and testament of George Miller will take place in the church hall. If you wish to attend, please follow me. The energy in the cathedral shifts instantly. Heads turn, eyes narrow, people begin to gather their things with nervous purpose. The reading of a will, now that's an event. Not a celebration of a life, but a test of loyalty, a battlefield for old grudges and new resentments. I slip out of my row and join the quiet procession heading to the parish hall. The air is cool, and sunlight pours through high windows, casting long shadows that flicker across faces I barely recognize. An aunt nods at me, uncertain. A cousin looks away, pretending not to notice. I pull my jacket tighter around my shoulders and keep moving. Inside, the church hall is smaller, more intimate, its wood-paneled walls and folding chairs arranged in neat rows facing a simple podium. At the front stands Mr. Hammond, my grandfather's attorney, organizing a stack of thick manila envelopes. My father, Brian, and Melissa take seats in the front row, an impenetrable line of defense. I choose a seat in the center, a few rows back, where the avoidance will soon be impossible. Melissa sees me first. Her eyes widen, shock flickering over her face before she nudges Brian and whispers something urgent. He turns, and together they stare at me as if I'm an apparition, a ghost from the family's unfinished past. I watch the realization dawn. I am here, in the flesh, and I am not the same girl who left all those years ago. Then my father turns. Our eyes meet for the first time in 15 years. He looks older, lines deeper, hair grayer, his expression guarded but oddly vulnerable. He scans my face, my posture, the way I hold myself with the quiet self-assurance of someone who has nothing left to prove. But he doesn't approach me. None of them do. Instead, they huddle together, whispering like generals planning a war. Mr. Hammond calls the room to order, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to handling delicate family matters. We are here for the reading of the last will and testament of George Miller. He begins. The hush that settles is absolute. You can almost taste the anticipation in the air, the hope, the dread, the hunger for validation. For the first time since I arrived, I let myself exhale. Whatever comes next, I'll face it on my own terms. The family I was born into is not the family I belong to, and maybe, just maybe, Grandpa knew that better than anyone. Mr. Hammond's voice settles the hall, smooth and practiced, a calm hand steering us all into uncertain waters. He reads from a crisp sheet of paper, his eyes steady behind wire-rimmed glasses. The language of wills is oddly formal. Names, relationships, bequests, all laid out with clinical precision. He starts with the obvious. To my eldest grandson, Brian Miller, I leave the house on Cedar Street, along with its contents. To my granddaughter, Melissa Miller, I leave my art collection and family jewelry. To various nieces and nephews, small sums, heirlooms, mementos of affection. There are polite nods, quiet thank yous, and one or two tears. The ritual of inheritance is supposed to smooth over family fractures, but in reality, it just draws new battle lines. I listen, barely breathing, as if the sound of my own lungs might somehow tip the scales. For a second, I wonder if my name will even be mentioned. My mind flashes back, Grandpa teaching me to drive his battered Chevy, his huge hands guiding mine on the wheel, his laugh echoing over the crackling radio. He never told me I was wrong for wanting something different, never rolled his eyes at my uniform or the bruises on my knuckles after sparring practice. You got grit, Ash, he'd say, and the world needs more women like you. Mr. Hammond shuffles his papers. And finally, he intones, to my granddaughter, Ashley Miller. The room stills. My father shifts in his seat, eyes narrowing. Melissa's lips part, as if she can't quite process the sound of my name after so many years of silence. Mr. Hammond continues, his voice unwavering, who chose service and integrity over comfort and conformity. I leave all my business holdings, real estate investments, and associated assets, contingent upon her continued service as a sworn officer of the law. There is also a sealed letter to be opened only in her presence. A ripple passes through the crowd. The weight of the words settles over the room like a low fog. For a moment, no one speaks. My father draws a sharp breath, his composure breaking. This has to be some kind of mistake, he mutters, but Hammond ignores him. Melissa hisses, what? That's not fair. Brian turns around in his seat, staring at me, his eyes wide with confusion and disbelief. Mr. Hammond produces a sealed envelope, thick and heavy, my name written in Grandpa's unmistakable, looping script, for Ashley, my proudest achievement. He gestures for me to come forward. My steps are measured, each footfall echoing in the quiet, just as if I were walking into a suspect's interrogation room. But my heart is pounding, the letter a stone in my hand. As I stand at the front, I can feel all eyes on me, some angry, some curious, others just stunned. I break the seal. The scent of Grandpa's aftershave lingers on the paper, or maybe it's just memory playing tricks. The first page is full of his careful, upright handwriting. He writes about teaching me to change the oil in his truck, about listening to my dreams of being a detective when everyone else called it childish. He writes about the day I graduated the academy, how he wore his best suit and told anyone who'd listen, that's my granddaughter. She's the bravest one of us all. But it's the second page that makes my throat close. Ashley, by the time you read this, you'll have done more than most people dream. I may not have understood every detail of your work, but I knew enough to be proud. Your father believes success is measured by money and status. Your siblings crave approval and acceptance. But you learned what I learned in a different America. The most important battles are the quiet ones, the victories no one else sees. The businesses and investments aren't just money. They're my way of saying someone in this family finally saw you as you are. Use them as you see fit. I trust you more than anyone else. Make me proud. You already have. I can barely see the words through the blur in my eyes. For a long moment, I just hold the letter, letting the truth settle inside me. Mr. Hammond clears his throat. The total value of the bequest to Miss Miller is approximately $8.7 million. The numbers hang in the air like a challenge. Melissa's gasp is audible. Brian's jaw tightens, his lawyer's mind working overtime. My father's face has gone pale, the shock almost comical if it weren't so raw. He tries to recover, to reassert control. Ashley hasn't been part of this family in years. She walked away. His voice is low, but everyone can hear the accusation underneath. Mr. Hammond, patient and unmoved, says simply, your father's will is clear and legally binding. His intentions were explicit. The tension is a living thing now, pulsing and sharp. Melissa starts, then falters. But she doesn't finish. Disappointment? Stranger? Black sheep? I look at her, steady and unblinking. I'm what, Melissa? I ask, my voice soft but edged with steel. She flushes and looks away. Brian tries a different tactic, slipping into his usual diplomatic tone. Ashley, this is a surprise to all of us. Maybe we could talk, just as a family? I almost laugh at that. A family, now that there's something at stake. I look back at the letter. For the first time in years, I feel the burden of not belonging start to lighten. Maybe Grandpa knew what I needed wasn't just money, but the chance to stand here, in front of everyone, and be seen for who I am. Whatever happens next, it won't be the same as before. The room is thick with shock and disbelief. It's as if time itself hesitates, trying to make sense of what just happened. Even the air feels heavier, strained with the pressure of secrets, regrets, and years of carefully curated family stories that no longer fit the narrative. I hold Grandpa's letter close, feeling its weight in my hands and in my chest. My father, who for years treated silence as the greatest punishment, is now rendered mute by something far more powerful, the truth, delivered in ink and legalese, witnessed by a roomful of people who never saw this coming. Melissa is the first to break the silence, her voice pitched high with disbelief. There has to be some mistake. You can't just leave everything to her. Her words hang in the air, brittle and desperate. Brian, ever the mediator, leans in, as if he might smooth things over with a calm tone and logical argument. Ashley, nobody is saying you haven't worked hard, but Grandpa must have. He pauses, looking at me, his gaze searching for a weakness. He must have been confused at the end. Maybe we could talk this through, privately? Privately. For years, everything about me had to be handled in private. My ambitions, my opinions, my very existence. If there was ever a family meeting, I was always told afterward, as if my input would have been an inconvenience. Now, with a fortune and Grandpa's legacy on the line, suddenly my presence is urgent. My father stands. He's taller than I remember, or maybe it's just that he's always loomed large in my mind. Ashley, he begins, and for a second, I hear something almost human in his voice, a tremor of fear, or maybe regret. Family is family. Maybe this is a chance for us to move forward. I recognize the tactic, rewrite history, gloss over the years of exile, all for the sake of appearances and inheritance. I square my shoulders, the years of police work settling into my voice. Move forward. Pretend the last 15 years didn't happen. Act like you didn't cut me off the moment I chose my own path. He winces, as if the words sting. Maybe they do. You left, he says quietly, his confidence slipping. You walked away from everything we offered you. I let the silence stretch, let them feel, for once, the emptiness I carried for years. You offered me a cage and called it love, I reply. All I wanted was the chance to serve, to be something more than just a miller on a list of successful children. You couldn't see past your own expectations. Melissa looks like she might cry, but her tears don't move me. Why are you being so cruel? She whispers. Cruel? I echo. You all decided who I was before I ever had the chance. When I chose the badge, you called it a phase. When I didn't call home for the holidays, you told yourselves it was because I was stubborn. But none of you ever really wanted to know what my life was like. You just wanted a family you could be proud of, even if you had to invent it. Brian stands now, his voice tight with frustration. Ashley, let's not do this in front of everyone. But I'm done hiding. For once, I want them to see me, the woman I've become, not the story they tell each other. I reach into my jacket and pull out my phone. With a few quick taps, I bring up photos from my career, a picture of me in full dress uniform, shaking hands with the NYPD commissioner, another with my squad after solving a high-profile missing persons case, one with the mayor, a citation for bravery visible in my hand. I hold the screen up, meeting my father's eyes. This is me, Dad. This is who you thought was just playing cop. For the past 15 years, while you were building your firm and Melissa was raising her family, I was serving a city that needed me. I was making a difference, sometimes in ways I can't even talk about. The room is silent. Even the relatives who have no idea what's happened in our family sense that something fundamental has shifted. I put the phone away, my hands steady. I don't need anyone's permission to belong here, I say. Grandpa saw me for who I am, and he chose to honor that. I'll do the same with what he left me. For the first time, I see my father truly at a loss. The authority he wielded so effortlessly my entire life has cracked, replaced by uncertainty and, maybe, a glimmer of understanding. Mr. Hammond clears his throat, gently guiding the meeting back to its formal track. There are additional documents for Ashley to review, and I'll be in touch about the business transition. For everyone else, thank you for your time and respect for Mr. Miller's wishes. People begin to rise. Collecting coats and purses, eyes darting between me and my family. Some offer sympathetic smiles, others avoid my gaze, embarrassed or simply stunned. As the room empties, Melissa lingers near the door. She glances back at me, hope and sadness warring on her face. Ashley, maybe we could talk? Just the two of us? I look at her, really look, for the first time in years. There's so much between us now, a canyon carved by silence and judgment. I don't know, Melissa, I say honestly. It's not that simple anymore. I tried for a long time to be someone you could be proud of. Turns out, I had to be proud of myself first. She nods, tears welling, and slips out the door. I gather my things, feeling the weight of Grandpa's letter in my pocket, a tangible reminder that I'm not just the outcast, not just the black sheep. I am, finally, my own person. And for the first time, I don't care if my family sees it or not. By the time I step outside, the sun is already low, turning the San Francisco sky a bruised lavender. The air is sharp and alive, the kind that makes you want to walk fast, to get somewhere, to leave the weight of the church and all its ghosts behind. I take the long way around the block, my footsteps echoing on the cracked sidewalk, the city sounds a welcome blur in my ears. The envelope with Grandpa's letter feels heavier than it should, as if it's gathered all the things I never said to him into its paper folds. I find a small bench on a quiet side street and sit, letting myself breathe for the first time since the service. The city is humming all around me, people heading home, neon flickering to life in the windows of corner stores, the distant wail of a siren slicing the dusk. It's strange, but in this city where I'm a stranger, I feel more at peace than I ever did at home. I think back to the last real conversation I had with Grandpa. It was almost 5 years ago, just before I transferred to the NYPD Detective Bureau. He called me, somehow managing to track down my new cell number even after I'd gone quiet with the family. His voice was rough but warm, the kind of voice that could steady you even on your worst day. Ashley, he said, pausing to make sure I was listening. You know your father, he's stubborn. But you've got something different. Grit. Don't let anyone tell you that's a bad thing. He asked about my cases, not out of curiosity, but because he respected what I did, even if he didn't understand every detail. When I admitted to feeling tired, overwhelmed, He just laughed. That's how you know you're doing something worth it, he said. If it was easy, anyone could do it. Just remember, family isn't always about blood. It's about who stands with you when everything else falls down. I've carried those words through the worst nights on the job, when the calls come in at 2 a.m., when the rain is so heavy you can't see your own badge, when you're knocking on doors in neighborhoods everyone else avoids. In those moments, you don't think about approval or inheritance. You think about doing the work. Being a police officer in New York taught me more about family than any holiday dinner ever did. You rely on your partner, on the squad, on people who've seen you at your lowest and still trust you with their lives. Out there, you earn respect by action, not by pedigree. Yet, for all that, I sometimes imagined what it would be like to have my own family call and ask about my day. To hear Brian's voice, Carmen teasing, or Melissa's laughter, unguarded and real. I would have given anything, for years, for a simple invitation. Come home, Ashley. We miss you. But life moves on. And now, after everything, I'm left with a legacy I never expected, a business portfolio, real estate holdings, investments I have no idea how to manage. Grandpa's faith in me is almost overwhelming. Did he know how scared I'd be to step into a world I never wanted? Did he understand that for all my talk of courage and independence, there are some doors I'm still afraid to open? My phone buzzes, snapping me back to reality. It's a text from my lieutenant in New York. Update on the Baxter case. Call me when you get a chance. Even 3,000 miles away. The job never lets go. I send a quick reply, promising to call later. A thought occurs to me, maybe this is what Grandpa intended all along. Not just to give me money, but to give me roots, a reason to stand my ground, to find a new kind of family in the city he chose after leaving his own home behind. A group of kids skateboards past, their laughter bouncing off the stone walls. An older couple walks by hand in hand, their steps perfectly in sync. For a moment, I envy them, the ease, the belonging, the simplicity. But then I remember what Grandpa always said about me, you were never meant for easy, kid. You were meant for real. As the first stars appear above the city, I stand and tuck the letter back into my jacket. I'm still not sure what comes next. But for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm running away from something. Maybe, just maybe, I'm finally running towards something instead. When I get back to my hotel, there's a voicemail from Mr. Hammond. Ashley, I'd like to set up a meeting about the businesses and legal details. Also, there's a letter of introduction from your grandfather to his employees. He was very specific that you read it before making any decisions. I play the message twice, letting the implications settle. I'm not just inheriting money, I'm inheriting responsibility. People. Livelihoods. A whole world I never asked for. I catch my reflection in the hotel window, tired, a little older, but not broken. Not anymore. Tomorrow, I'll face whatever comes. Tonight, I let myself remember a man who believed in me, and a family I might finally be ready to build for myself, on my own terms. Morning in San Francisco comes with a kind of golden optimism that almost makes you forget what the previous day brought. But as I sip hotel coffee and scroll through news headlines, reality creeps back in. My grandfather's estate, my family's stunned silence, the sudden weight of becoming an heiress to a world I never wanted. Mr. Hammond's office sits just off Union Square, all polished wood, quiet professionalism, and a hint of old money in the air. He greets me warmly, but I can sense the calculation behind his smile, Attorneys who handle family fortunes don't get rattled easily. Still, there's a flicker of genuine respect when he offers his hand. Ashley, your grandfather spoke highly of your integrity. He believed you'd honor his legacy. He lays out the facts. The construction company Grandpa built from nothing, 3 commercial properties downtown, and a diverse investment portfolio. There are ledgers, legal documents, keys to offices I've never seen, and, most intimidating, a sealed envelope addressed to the employees of Miller and Sons. I promised George I would deliver this personally, to be read by you in front of the staff, Hammond explains. He wanted them to hear from you directly. For a moment, the detective in me kicks in. I think of all the times I've faced down suspects, run operations, commanded search teams in chaos. None of that prepared me for this, a conference room full of people who depended on my grandfather's vision and now, unexpectedly, on me. I ask about the staff. Hammond gives me a rundown. Long-timers who stuck by Grandpa through thick and thin, a handful of middle managers who've known me only as a distant rumor. They're nervous, Hammond says honestly. Change always brings uncertainty, but your grandfather was adamant. He saw something in you none of us did. He wanted them to see it too. I agreed to meet them the next day, nerves tightening in my stomach. Before I leave, Hammond hands me another document, a list of the foundation Grandpa quietly started years ago. Scholarships for immigrant kids, grants for community policing programs, aid to fallen officers' families. He never wanted credit for any of it, Hammond says, his voice gentling. He just wanted to help. I think he hoped you'd continue that work. Walking back through Union Square, past tourists and office workers, I feel the beginnings of something new, an unfamiliar sense of purpose, mingled with anxiety. For so long, my identity has been forged in opposition to my family, to the roles they tried to force on me. Now, for the first time, I'm being given the freedom and the challenge to create something on my own terms. But freedom is never simple. That afternoon, Brian calls. His number pops up, and for a moment I almost don't answer. But curiosity gets the better of me. Ashley, he says, his voice tight, can we meet? Just you and me. No lawyers, no drama. I agree, more out of habit than hope. We meet at a coffee shop in the Mission District, neutral ground, crowded enough that neither of us can raise our voices. Brian arrives in a suit, looking every bit the high-powered attorney, but I notice the shadows under his eyes. He fidgets with his wedding ring, staring into his latte as if it might offer answers. He starts with the usual pleasantries, then gets to the point. I'm not going to pretend I understand Grandpa's decision. But if you need help, with a business, with investments, I know people. This is a lot to handle. I study him for a moment, searching for an angle. For all his ambition, Brian's never been cruel, just unable to see the world through anyone's eyes but his own. Why now? I ask. You never cared about my career, my life, until there was money involved. He flushes, stung. That's not fair. I was angry, yes, but I was also jealous. You got to walk away, do whatever you wanted. I always stayed, always tried to live up to Dad's rules. Dad's rules were a cage for all of us, I say, more gently than I mean to. I just broke out first. We sit in silence for a minute, letting old wounds breathe. Eventually, Brian sighs. Whatever happens next, we're still family. Like it or not. I nod, but I don't commit to more. Family has always been a complicated word for me. Later, back at the hotel, I find myself staring at Grandpa's employee letter. The words come alive in my mind before I even open the envelope. I imagine him, strong hands on the steering wheel, gravel in his voice, reminding me that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about acting even when you're scared. I smile. Okay, Grandpa, I say aloud. Let's see what you left me. The next day, I'll face his employees, his extended family, in a sense. They'll want answers. They'll want hope. For the first time, I think I might be able to give it. As evening falls, I look out over the lights of the city. For the first time since I was 19, I feel something almost like belonging. Maybe this is what Grandpa wanted all along, not for me to return home, but to build one of my own. When I arrive at Miller and Sons the next morning, I'm surprised by the building's modesty. For all the torque of a business holdings and a commercial properties, the offices are tucked into a sturdy brick structure that looks unchanged since the 70s. There's a faded mural on the side wall, a blue-collar tableau, workers in hard hats and paint-speckled overalls, a silent tribute to the company's roots. Inside, a woman at the front desk greets me with wary politeness. You must be Ashley. I'm Rita. I've been here since your granddad started this place. Mr. Hammond said you'd be coming. She studies me for a moment, eyes sharp and kind. He always said you had your own mind. You look like him, you know. I thank her, the words catching in my throat. I'm not used to being recognized, let alone welcomed. She leads me down a hallway lined with photographs, old company picnics, crew shots from job sites, faded Polaroids of Grandpa shaking hands with everyone from local mayors to janitors. At the end of the hall, a small group of employees waits in the conference room. A few men with calloused hands, a woman in a hard hat, a middle-aged accountant in a neat blazer, a handful of others whose faces hold varying degrees of worry and hope. Mr. Hammond stands at the front, clearing his throat. Thank you all for coming. As you know, George Miller left specific instructions for this meeting. He gestures to me. Ashley Miller, George's granddaughter, and the new principal owner of Miller and Sons. For a moment, the room is silent except for the hum of an ancient air conditioner. Every face turns to me. Some skeptical, some simply tired. I take a breath. Years of questioning suspects. Testifying in court, negotiating tense standoffs, none of it feels as daunting as this. But Grandpa didn't raise me to back down from a room, even one full of strangers. Thank you for being here, I begin, my voice steady. I know you're all wondering what comes next. The truth is, I'm still figuring that out myself. My grandfather trusted me with something huge, and I plan to do right by him, and by all of you. I open the envelope marked for the employees. Inside is a letter in Grandpa's blocky handwriting. I read it aloud, hearing his voice with every word. To everyone at Miller and Sons. If you're reading this, I'm gone. But that doesn't mean the work stops, or that you're without a Miller to steer the ship. Ashley is my granddaughter. She's tough, honest, and knows what it means to fight for what's right. She's earned everything in her life, and I trust her to take care of this company, and of you. You gave me loyalty and hard work for decades. Give her the same, and she'll give it back tenfold. I expect nothing less from a Miller. Thank you. George. The room relaxes just a little, a shared grief settling between us. I see nods, relief, even a few smiles. I realize, suddenly, that this is what Grandpa wanted for me, not just money or property, but the chance to be part of something built on trust and sweat, on more than just blood. After the meeting, I stay to talk to as many people as I can. Maria, the project manager, tells me about her team. Dave, who worked with Grandpa for 25 years, shares a story about Grandpa sneaking donuts into early morning crew meetings. Rita quietly hands me a list of questions: payroll, benefits, job security. I promise to get answers. By noon, the fear in the office has faded, replaced by cautious optimism. They don't expect me to know everything. They just want to know I care. For once, I don't feel like an outsider. I feel like someone with a purpose. Afterward, I return to Mr. Hammond's office to discuss the other part of my inheritance, the foundation. He gives me a folder thick with reports and handwritten notes. There are photos of scholarship recipients, kids who look like I did, years ago, determined and hungry for a chance. There are letters from widows of officers, notes of thanks from schools in struggling neighborhoods. Reading through them, I understand something I never saw before. Grandpa built more than a business. He built a legacy of service. He found family wherever he could offer help, and now he's asked me to do the same. That night, I walk alone through the city, my head buzzing with ideas and doubts. The streetlights throw long shadows across the sidewalk. I call my lieutenant in New York, updating him on my leave and the reasons behind it. He's blunt but supportive. "You'll figure it out, Miller. You always do. That's why you're the best damn detective I've got." I smile at that. Maybe being a Miller means being the best you can, no matter where you find yourself. Back in my hotel room, I draft an email to the Miller & Sons staff, a promise that I'll keep the doors open, honor their work, and learn as I go. It's the first step toward something new. Before I sleep, I reread Grandpa's letter, letting his words fill the space my family never could. For the first time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, not just in his legacy, but in my own life. The following days unfold like a blur. I spend hours in the Miller & Sons office, learning the basics of construction bids, payroll schedules, and permit deadlines, an entirely new language for someone used to Miranda rights and crime reports. Rita becomes my unofficial translator, guiding me through everything from deciphering ledgers to finding the best food trucks for lunch breaks. It's not easy. More than once, I catch skeptical glances from crew foremen and accounting staff, the silent question hanging between us: what does a police detective know about running a business? Sometimes I wonder myself. Every night, I fall into bed exhausted, mind swirling with numbers and stories, projects Grandpa started, families he quietly helped, promises he kept without ever boasting. Yet, there's something familiar in the challenge. In police work, you never know what's coming through the door. You rely on instinct, on the willingness to listen, and the courage to ask for backup. I approach the business the same way, showing up early, staying late, and making it clear that I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn. To my surprise, people start coming to me with questions, suggestions, even jokes. Their new Miller is no longer just a rumor. She's here, sleeves rolled up, ready to work. But as my confidence grows at Miller & Sons, the distance with my family only widens. One afternoon, as I'm reviewing the company's safety protocols, Brian shows up at the office, tension radiating from every line of his expensive suit. He barely waits for Rita to announce him before marching into my temporary office. "We need to talk," he says, shutting the door behind him. His jaw is set, his eyes tired. I gesture for him to sit, bracing myself. He launches into his argument. Ashley, you have to see that Grandpa's decision put all of us in an impossible situation. The business, the money, it should have stayed in the family. We're all family. I keep my voice calm. I am family, Brian. Just because I didn't do things your way doesn't mean I don't belong. He shakes his head. You don't understand what you're up against. The board, the investors, some of them are worried. They think you're going to run the company into the ground or sell it off. You have no experience. I meet his gaze, steady and unafraid. That's exactly what people said when I joined the force. They were wrong then, and they're wrong now. Grandpa believed in me. I'm not selling. I'm not walking away. Brian exhales, deflated. Look, Melissa's a mess over this. Dad's barely speaking to anyone. You could fix it. Just walk away, give us control. You'd still get your share. I shake my head. That's not what Grandpa wanted. And it's not what I want either. I know you're angry, Brian, but this is my life now. I owe it to him, and to myself, to see it through. There's a long pause. For the first time, I see something like respect flicker in his eyes. I hope you know what you're doing, Ash, he says softly. I shrug. So do I. But I'm willing to try. He stands to go, hesitation lingering. If you ever need advice or backup, just ask. Family or not, you're still my sister. After he leaves, I stare at the door, surprised by the wave of relief and sadness that washes over me. For years, all I wanted was a seat at the table. Now I have it, but the table looks different than I imagined. That evening, Melissa calls. Her voice is small, uncertain. Ash, can we meet? Just us. No lawyers, no dad. We meet at a quiet park in the Presidio, beneath ancient eucalyptus trees. She's nervous, wringing her hands, searching my face for a sign. I'm sorry, as she blurts out. I was angry. I kept thinking, if you had just come home, maybe none of this would have happened. But the truth is, I missed you. I just didn't know how to say it. I sit beside her on the bench, letting her words settle. I missed you too. More than you know. But I couldn't be who everyone wanted me to be. I needed to find my own way. She nods, tears brimming. I want to help, if you'll let me. I'm good at organizing things. Maybe I could work at the foundation? Keep Grandpa's projects going? For a long moment, I study her, the sister I lost and found again in the same breath. I'd like that, I say quietly. Grandpa would too. We sit in silence, the city lights flickering on in the distance, two sisters building a new bridge over old wounds. Later, back at the office, I gather the staff in the break room. I announce new safety bonuses, a paid day off for the annual company picnic, and expanded scholarship funds for employees' kids. Small things, but gestures that say, I see you, and I'm here to stay. The applause is hesitant at first, then genuine. Someone brings out donuts. For the first time, I feel something shift. The legacy Grandpa left isn't just money or a business. It's trust. Community. Family, chosen and earned. As the laughter swells around me, I remember his words, The world needs more women like you. I'm finally starting to believe him. Spring comes early to San Francisco. By the time Miller and Sons hosts its annual picnic in a sunlit park overlooking the bay, it's as if the world has been scrubbed clean. Fresh grass, blooming flowers, the laughter of children running between tables piled with food. I watch from the edge of the crowd as longtime employees greet their families, friends toss frisbees, and the company's future feels, maybe for the first time, truly secure. I'm different now. Some mornings I barely recognize the woman in the mirror. Hair a little longer, smile easier, shoulders squared not just by duty but by pride. My NYPD badge sits quietly in my nightstand drawer, replaced for now by a hard hat and a growing stack of business memos. I still call the station in New York every week, updating my lieutenant and checking in on old cases. The job is still part of me, always will be. But I've learned that identity can hold more than one story at a time. Melissa thrives in her new role, running Grandpa's foundation with an efficiency that impresses even the most skeptical board members. She launches new programs, after-school clubs, English classes for immigrants, and scholarship for daughters of first responders. She's found her place, not just as my sister, but as a partner. The wall between us has faded, replaced by laughter, late-night planning sessions, and the quiet understanding that comes from rebuilding something broken, together. Brian helps too, though he still struggles with Dad's disappointment and the baggage of old expectations. He manages the legal side of things, negotiates contracts, and even starts a pro bono clinic for construction workers with immigration questions. We don't always agree, but the fights are honest now, not just echoes of childhood rivalries. For the first time, I believe him when he says, "I'm proud of you." And Dad, well, some relationships can't be fixed overnight. He visits the office sometimes, hovering in doorways, watching from a distance as if waiting for proof that I won't fail. We talk, cautiously, circling old wounds with more patience than before. He may never understand why I needed to walk away, but I think, slowly, he's starting to accept that I came back on my own terms. On the day of the picnic, Rita finds me by the lemonade table. "Your grandfather would have loved this," as she says, her eyes shining. "He always said a company is just a building until you fill it with people who care." I nod, looking around at the faces, some old, some new, all part of a legacy I finally feel worthy of inheriting. "I hope I'm making him proud," I reply. "You are, honey," as she says simply. "We all are." The afternoon passes in a blur of speeches, games, and stories. I take the microphone, my hands only trembling a little. "Thank you for trusting me," I say, voice carrying over the crowd. "This company isn't just my grandfather's legacy, it's yours too. I promise to keep earning your trust, every single day." The applause is loud and real. It doesn't matter that I never wanted to be here, not at first. What matters is that I stayed. Afterward, Melissa and I sit on the grass, sharing a plate of cookies, watching the sunset. "You ever think about going back to New York?" She asks. "Sometimes," I admit. I miss the job, the city. But I think Grandpa was right. Family isn't always about where you came from. Sometimes it's what you build along the way. She nudges me with her shoulder. "I'm glad you stayed. I needed you, Ash." We all did. I smile, feeling the truth of it settle deep inside. For so long, I tried to prove myself to people who never saw the real me. Now, I have nothing to prove, only work to do, and people worth doing it for. As evening falls and the last guests trickle home, I take one last walk around the park, Grandpa's old letter folded in my pocket. I reread it under the streetlights, his words grounding me as they always have. The most important battles are the ones nobody sees. And the greatest victories are the ones you can never talk about. Take care of the people who stand with you when the world falls down. That's all I ever wanted for you, Ash. I stand for a while, listening to the sounds of the city, the distant rumble of cable cars, the bark of a dog, the soft murmur of families heading home. I think about the path that brought me here, the pain, the fights, the years of loneliness and hard-won independence. In the end, I didn't come back for forgiveness or even for closure. I came back because someone believed in me, and because, finally, I learned to believe in myself. Tomorrow, there will be new challenges, meetings, deadlines, tough decisions that no one else can make for me. But tonight, I let myself rest. I let myself feel the weight of legacy, not as a burden, but as a gift. The story isn't about what I lost, but about what I found, here, in a city that never felt like home until I built one of my own. As the last light fades, I look up at the stars, the same ones Grandpa must have watched on long nights after work. For the first time, I know exactly who I am, and I know I'll be just fine.